The night my father died, the house felt too quiet to be real. Thunder crawled across the sky, as if heaven itself was restless. I remember standing beside the window, staring at the city lights, feeling like the world had shifted, and I hadn't moved with it. My older brother, Adrian, had always been the golden child, polished, perfect, trusted. He was the kind of man who shook hands firmly but smiled without warmth. Father adored him. Maybe because he reminded him of himself? Me? I was the strange one, the artist, the dreamer, always buried in books or blueprints, searching for something that didn't quite exist yet. When Father passed, he left behind a will that supposedly would take care of both of us. But I was naive. I didn't know the lengths Adrian would go to ensure he kept the lion's share. The day the lawyer arrived, rain streaked down the windows of Father's study. I sat across from Adrian, the sheen of his expensive watch catching the light while the lawyer read the will. And then came the news. Your father appointed Adrian as the executor, and most of the liquid assets appear to have been redirected prior to his passing. I blinked. Redirected where? Adrian's lips twitched up. To keep the company afloat, he answered. Father trusted me. I made decisions he didn't have time to sign. It's all on record. The lawyer cleared his throat. It's legal. Legal. That single word slapped me harder than any betrayal. Father had left me the old warehouse property by the harbor, a crumbling skeleton of rust and dust, while Adrian took everything, the company, the bank accounts, the estate. I felt the world crumble. But Adrian? He didn't even look back at me. He simply gathered the papers and left, leaving me in the ruins of a life that wasn't mine anymore. For weeks, I couldn't speak. I kept replaying conversations with Father, moments when he told me I would make myself of something. He'd looked at me with pride, but now it felt like he'd abandoned me to my brother's mercy. I went to the warehouse out of desperation. The building had broken windows, a leaking roof, and vines crawling up the brick walls. An old cardboard sign on the door read, "Forgotten." Inside, I found more dust than memory. But it was mine. The only thing left. And oddly, that made it precious. I sat in the middle of the cold concrete floor and made a promise. Not to Father, not to Adrian, but to myself. I would make this place the start of something he could never steal. So, I began. I cleaned. I patched. I worked with my bare hands, day after day. The neighbors watched from a distance, whispering about the boy with nothing. But I didn't care. Because little by little, something sparked. An abandoned idea took root. A community workspace, a place where small creators could build, learn, and collaborate. Father used to say innovation wasn't born in marble boardrooms, but in dirty garages. So, I built one. The first year was brutal. No money, no investors, just passion and stubbornness. I lived inside the warehouse, sleeping on a cot behind a wall of old crates. But people came. A sculptor who'd lost his studio, a coder with more brilliance than stability, a designer who could paint worlds with pixels. They joined me. We built something like family, not of blood, but of purpose. Word spread. Machines hummed. Ideas flourished. Projects grew. Then, one morning, a journalist showed up, curious about the harbor dream. We talked for hours. The story went public, and suddenly investors began calling me. One deal turned into 2, then 5, then 10. The warehouse expanded. We formed a company, Nova Forge. In 2 years, it became a global innovation hub. Our creations shook industries: green tech machinery, adaptive tools, affordable robotics. We were everywhere. And Adrian? Oh, he watched. From his pristine glass tower. 1 year after father's death, his inherited empire began to crack, slowly, then all at once. Bad deals, poor leadership. He had father's power, but none of his vision. By year 3, Nova Forge was valued at 5 times his company. And that's when he showed up. The day was warm. The warehouse, now an empire, glowed with new glass and steel. I was leading a team meeting when the receptionist whispered that someone wanted to see me. I stepped into the lobby, and there he was. Adrian. His once crisp suit wrinkled, his confidence hollow. He forced a smile. "Congratulations," he said. You surpassed us." He looked at the walls lined with awards. Our awards. Not inherited, but earned. He swallowed. Maybe we could partner, combine our strengths." For a moment, I just stared. This was the same man who stripped me of my inheritance, claiming he knew best. "You didn't come to partner," I said quietly. "You came to survive." His eyes flickered. He remembered every choice he had made.
"You stole my future," I continued, "and now you want a piece of the one I built?" He opened his mouth, but I held up a hand. "I don't need revenge, Adrian. I never did. Just watch. That's all. Watch what I build while holding nothing that belonged to you." He stood frozen, silent. I guided him through the massive hall, past young innovators and bustling labs. Every step was a reminder. I did this. Without his help, without father's money. At the balcony overlooking hundreds of creators working in harmony, he whispered, "This should have been ours." I shook my head. "No. This was always mine. You just didn't see it." His jaw clenched, a storm brewing behind his eyes, a storm of regret, anger, and disbelief. The same storm that once lived inside me, now transferred entirely into him. And as he stood there drowning in the truth, I simply turned and walked away, leaving him with the fortune he couldn't steal. I thought that would be the end of it, but something darker was waiting, something I never saw coming, a secret hidden in my father's old journals, a truth that could shatter everything I'd rebuilt. And it began the moment a stranger appeared at my office door late one evening, holding a worn leather book in trembling hands. The book had my father's initials burned into the cover. When I opened it, a single line, scribbled in frantic ink, turned my blood cold. The ink was smudged as if written in haste, or fear. "If you're reading this, then Adrian is not the only one you should be wary of." My breath stalled. The words curled like smoke in my mind, rewriting everything I thought I knew. I felt the room shrink around me. The lights seemed too bright, the silence too loud. The stranger, an elderly man with hollow cheeks, watched me. His fingers trembled, gripping his cane as though it were the only thing keeping him upright. "You knew my father?" I asked. He nodded, voice the rasp of dry leaves. "I worked with him, long before you were born." I swallowed hard. What is this warning about? Who else should I be afraid of? The man looked around the studio, eyes darting to shadows as if expecting ghosts. He made enemies, powerful ones, people who don't forget. Something inside me, some long-buried instinct, twisted, uneasy. Why bring this now? "Because," he whispered, leaning closer, "they've been watching, waiting. And you," his finger lifted heavily toward my chest, "you just made yourself visible. A chill crept down my spine. Visible how? His brittle smile carried no warmth. You built something bigger than his company, bigger than his legacy. That kind of success is a shout, and they hear everything. My mouth felt dry. You're saying my father wasn't just running a business? No, he breathed. He was surviving. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. He seemed to be gathering strength, piecing memories together. Finally, he slid a folded paper from the journal and placed it onto my desk. A name, one I didn't recognize, was written across the top in black ink. Below the name, a list of dates. And beneath the dates, a single address circled 3 times. I shouldn't stay, the man said. They may have followed. He stood to leave, but I caught his sleeve. What am I supposed to do with this? His eyes held a sorrow I didn't understand. Find the truth before it finds you. Then he slipped out through the side door, disappearing into the evening. I stood there with my father's journal and the cryptic note, unsure if I'd just received a warning or an invitation. The room was too quiet again. My pulse echoed in my ears. I grabbed my phone and dialed the one person I knew could help. Leela, my oldest friend, the only person who had stayed when life tried to empty itself. She arrived 20 minutes later, hair tied up, eyes sharp with concern. What happened? I handed her the journal and note. Her expression darkened as she read, flipping pages, searching for context. So your father wrote this, but never told you. He never had the chance. And your brother, does he know? I shook my head. I doubt it. He was more interested in the assets than the shadows. She tapped the name at the top of the paper. You recognize this? No. She pursed her lips. We should check the address. It was late, but something compelled me forward. The same force that pushed me to build from nothing, that kept me breathing when everything should have crushed me. Fear and curiosity are siblings. I followed both. We drove through the city, past glittering buildings and rusted fences, until the skyline dissolved into industrial blocks. The air smelled like metal and rain. A heavy fog clung to the ground, smoothing edges into ghosts. Leela parked. This is definitely the place, she whispered. We stepped out, the gravel crunching beneath our shoes. The circle on the paper led us to an old warehouse, smaller than the one my father left me. Darker, heavier. A single light flickered near the entrance. It felt like a warning. We entered. The place was empty. Too empty. Dust coated the floors. But someone had been there recently. Footprints cut through the dust, leading deeper inside. We followed. A corridor stretched before us, lined with locked metal cabinets. At the end, a door slightly ajar. I pushed it open. Inside was a small room, bare except for a table, 2 chairs, and a metal lockbox. The lockbox looked old, dented, but unmistakably important. Leela exhaled. Do you think? I was already searching the journal. In the back, pressed between pages, was a small brass key. My father had hidden it well. My hands shook as I slid it into the lockbox. It clicked. Inside were papers, dozens of them, with my father's handwriting covering every inch. I lifted one, reading slowly. The words made no sense at first. A map of names, dates, transactions, and at the center of everything, my family's company. Leela leaned closer. What is all this? Before I could answer, a sudden crack echoed behind us. Footsteps. We froze. A shadow stretched across the doorway. Someone was here. Someone who knew we'd come. I slammed the lockbox shut, tucking the papers inside. Leela grabbed my arm. The footsteps grew closer, slow, controlled. Not searching, approaching. We backed into the corner, hearts thundering. The shadow paused. A familiar voice seeped through the silence, low, strained, and all too recognizable. Looking for something, little brother? My blood turned to ice. Adrian stepped into the dim light, eyes sharp, jaw tight, as if he had been waiting for this moment longer than I could imagine. His gaze dropped to the lockbox in my hand, and a thin smile crept across his face. "I see you found Father's secrets," he whispered. Leela stiffened beside me. "What are you doing here?" I demanded. Adrian's eyes flickered, something like triumph glinting behind them. "You think you built all this alone? You think the past stayed buried just because you pretended it didn't exist?" He stepped closer, the fog of his breath mixing with mine. "You have no idea what you've stirred up." My grip tightened on the box. "Then tell me." He laughed, quiet, cold. "Oh, brother, I'm not here to explain." His voice dipped lower. "I'm here to finish what Father started." Before I could speak, he lifted a small device from his pocket. The click of a button echoed through the warehouse, and somewhere deep within the shadows, something began to hum. A faint vibration rippled through the concrete floor, subtle at first, like distant machinery waking from a long sleep. The humming grew deeper, rolling beneath our feet, stirring the stale air into a nervous chill. Adrian's expression barely changed. He watched me with that familiar, unreadable calm, as though this was all expected, planned. Leela grabbed my wrist. "What did you just do?" she whispered. Adrian tilted his head, almost amused. "You always believed Father trusted me more. You were right, but not for the reasons you think." The hum rose into a throbbing pulse. From somewhere beyond the darkened corridor, lights flickered, one by one, activating in a synchronized chain. I stepped forward. "What is this place?" Adrian's eyes narrowed. "Insurance. Father's, to be specific. You thought you inherited nothing. Truth is..." He spread his arms. This was the real legacy. He walked to the table, fingers grazing its cold metal surface. This facility was built off the books, hidden from everyone, including the board. Father didn't trust them or you to protect what he discovered. I stared, confused. "Discovered what?" He nodded toward the lockbox. "You think those papers are just old notes? They're instructions." "For what?" Leela demanded. Adrian's voice dropped low. "For a new beginning. Or an ending. Depends who gets to it first." The air seemed to thicken. Somewhere behind us, metal groaned, like a door sliding open. The humming sharpened into a mechanical growl. I tightened my grip on the lockbox. "We're leaving." Adrian's lips curled. "Good luck." I turned, pulling Leela toward the exit, but as we reached the hallway, the lights above flared, white and blinding. On both sides of the corridor, heavy metal shutters slammed down, sealing off every path except one. A narrow, descending staircase, illuminated by a cold fluorescent glow. The only way out was down. Leela's breath hitched. "He trapped us." I shook my head. "No, he's funneling us somewhere." Adrian stayed behind in the room, casually leaning against the table. "You'll learn more by going forward than asking me. And I'd hurry, brother. They're already awake." We didn't wait to find out what "they" meant. I pulled Leela down the stairs, every step carrying us deeper under the warehouse. The humming followed us like a heartbeat. At the bottom, the stairwell opened into a wide underground chamber, unexpectedly modern. Panels of steel and glass lined the walls, humming with soft electricity. Rows of illuminated consoles displayed strings of coded data, pulsing across the screens like living veins. This looks like a research facility, but not any research facility I'd seen. At the center of the chamber, a cylindrical pod sat encased in reinforced glass. Cables fed into it like tentacles, and beneath the glass, I caught a glimpse of something glowing. Soft, gold, rhythmic. The glow pulsed like a heartbeat. "What is that?" Before I could answer, the wall screens flickered. A grainy video came to life. My father's face appeared, not a still image, a recording. He looked older, tired, as though the life had been pulled from him long before death had claimed him. "If you're seeing this," he began, voice gentle but strained. Then I've failed to protect what matters most. I froze. Lila's hand gripped my arm like a vice. Father continued, "This facility is not a weapon, nor a business. It is a seed, the beginning of a technology meant to change everything. But great power attracts greater shadows." The screen flickered, distortion eating at the edges. "There are people, organizations, who would kill to own this. They already tried." His eyes lowered, filled with something like regret. "To keep you safe, I lied. I hid what I built. I gave everything, money, time, trust, to the one person I believed could guard this when I no longer could." My stomach tightened. I knew the name before he spoke it. "Adrian." Lila inhaled sharply. Father looked pained. "I hoped he would protect his brother. But power," his voice cracked, "reveals the soul." The recording glitched just for a moment before continuing. "You must decide what to do next. What lies inside this chamber is capable of rebuilding the world or ending it." His image began to blur. "If I could speak to you directly, I would beg you to trust only those who stand beside you willingly, not those who stand beside you for inheritance." He paused, then whispered, "Forgive me." The screen went dark. I stared at my own reflection on the black screen, mind spiraling. Father hadn't abandoned me. He had hidden the truth to protect me. But Adrian had known, for years. A hiss sounded behind us, a pressure seal releasing. I spun. The glass cylinder at the center was opening, slowly, silently. Lila stepped back. "This is bad. We shouldn't be here." Inside the pod, a small metallic sphere levitated, weightless. Golden light traced along its surface like veins beneath skin. The moment the pod fully opened, the sphere floated forward, toward me. I flinched, stepping back, but it followed me, as though it recognized me. The hum in the chamber grew softer, concentrating into a single resonant note that made my bones vibrate. A thin pulse of light extended from the sphere, connecting with my chest. Lila reached for me. "No!" A cascade of images flooded my mind. Blueprints, numbers, maps, faces, flashes of cities, energy grids, devices, languages I didn't understand, voices calling names I didn't know. Then, silence. My knees buckled. Lila caught me, panic in her eyes. "What happened?" I could barely speak. "It showed me things." The sphere hovered between us, soft gold dimming. Footsteps echoed above. Heavy, rushed, multiple. Not Adrian. Others. "We have to go," Lila urged. The staircase behind us suddenly illuminated, bright red, warnings flashing along the walls. The sphere pulsed once in response, drifting toward the far wall. A hidden panel slid open, revealing a narrow tunnel. More footsteps. Closer. We ran. The sphere led, lighting the way. The tunnel twisted, dipped, opened into another chamber, smaller, filled with crates and old equipment. A metallic clang sounded above. Something forcing its way in. Lila's breathing was sharp. "We're being hunted." I nodded, adrenaline burning through the fog in my mind. The sphere suddenly shot upward, embedding itself into a console. Lights flared, machinery roared alive. A hatch on the floor slid open, revealing a platform descending into darkness. We didn't think. We jumped onto it. The platform sank fast. Just before the hatch sealed overhead, I heard voices. Cold, unfamiliar. "Find them. Now." The sound cut off. Darkness swallowed us. Only the sphere's faint glow remained, hovering beside me like a silent guide. Lila squeezed my hand. Where is this taking us? I stared into the void below, listening as the hum grew louder, deeper, older. I don't know, but wherever it led, someone had been waiting. The platform kept sinking for what felt like minutes, though time twisted strangely in that darkness. The only light was the soft golden glow of the sphere, moving slowly beside us like it had chosen to stay close. Leela's fingers trembled where they intertwined with mine. "You okay?" she whispered. I nodded, though I wasn't sure if it was true. My mind was still buzzing, fragments of those visions dancing at the edges of thought. They felt like memories I had never lived. The platform suddenly slowed, then stopped with a dull hiss. A thin, horizontal line of light appeared ahead, widening slowly into a doorway. The door slid open, revealing a narrow tunnel bathed in blue-white luminescence. The walls were smooth, metallic, almost organic. Nothing about this place resembled the rust and ruin above. It was colder, cleaner, alive. The sphere drifted forward. We followed. The tunnel curved gently, every step echoing like our footsteps were intruders. At its end, a glass wall rose from floor to ceiling, separating us from a vast chamber beyond. I froze. The chamber was a city of machines. Stacks of servers formed towering blocks, blinking with quiet intelligence. In the center, a circular platform supported a structure that looked like a fusion of sculpture and engine. Fluid, crystalline, with streams of light pulsing through it like lifeblood. Leela's fingers trembled where they intertwined with mine. "What is that?" she whispered. The sphere tapped against the glass with a faint chime. A seam appeared, then the wall parted, letting us through. I felt the air shift as we stepped inside. It hummed, like the chamber was breathing. Across the room, a figure moved, slow, measured steps. "Finally," a woman's voice said. She emerged from behind one of the glowing pillars, tall, poised, dressed in dark fabric that clung to her like a second skin. Her eyes were sharp, unsettlingly calm. "You've taken long enough." Leela stepped in front of me instinctively. "Who are you?" Her gaze flicked to her, then back to me, like Leela didn't matter. "My name isn't relevant," she said. "What matters is that you're here." The sphere floated beside me, pulsing faintly, as though acknowledging her. She watched it with a small, knowing smile. "I see it's already begun." My voice scratched out. "What is all this? What did my father build?" She circled us slowly, assessing. "Your father began a revolution, one that many wanted, few understood, and none could control." Her fingers brushed the crystalline structure. It responded with soft streaks of light. "He called it Eternum." The word felt ancient, heavy. "He believed," she continued, "that human potential could be amplified, not through force or fear, but through understanding, through harmony." I didn't understand. Amplified how? She tapped her temple. "Memory, creativity, intelligence. Eternum is a conduit, an equalizer. It can connect minds, share knowledge without limits, erase barriers, elevate humanity." Leela shook her head. "That sounds impossible." The woman smiled faintly. "To most, yes, but your father wasn't most people." I felt the weight of his journal in my jacket. "But he hid it." "He had to." Her expression darkened. "There were others who wanted to use it differently, not to elevate humanity, but to rule it." The humming grew deeper, like the chamber acknowledged her words. "He trusted your brother to protect it, but power corrupts.
Adrian decided protection meant possession. My chest tightened. So he's been involved this whole time? Oh, she murmured. He was more than involved. Her gaze sharpened. He helped build the group hunting you. I felt the floor tilt under me. They were his partners? I staggered back, nausea rising. Leela grabbed my arm, grounding me. He stole your inheritance, not because he wanted your money, but because he needed you powerless. Her words cut deeper than anything Adrian had ever done. He never believed you'd find this, she continued. You weren't supposed to. Leela's voice trembled. Why is he trying to stop us now? The woman's eyes flickered with something like regret. Because you awakened it. She nodded towards the sphere. Eternum recognizes lineage. It responded to you, not him. My heartbeat stumbled. You're saying it chose me. Not chose, she corrected softly. Belongs to. The chamber shuddered suddenly, alarms flaring red across the consoles. The woman's composure didn't break. They're here. Adrian's hunters, the Shadow's father feared. How did they find us? Leela whispered. The woman gave a thin smile. They've known about this place longer than you have. They were waiting for one thing. She pointed at the sphere, for it to activate. A violent tremor shook the chamber. Dust rained from the ceiling. She stepped toward a console and pressed her palm against it. A translucent screen blossomed in the air, showing heat signatures converging above. Dozens, maybe more. They'll breach in minutes. You need to leave. I stared at her. Go with us. She shook her head. My place is here. I was sworn to guard Eternum until its heir arrived. My throat tightened. You knew my father. I did. Her voice softened. He trusted me. Enough to give me my purpose. Another explosion rattled the chamber, closer this time. The woman swept her hand across the console. A hidden door slid open across the room, revealing a narrow corridor glowing faint gold. Follow that path. The sphere will guide you. Leela hesitated. What about you? The woman smiled, sad, resolute. I was never meant to leave. The chamber lights dimmed. Red warnings swept across every surface. They'll destroy this place to find you, she warned. And if Eternum falls into their hands, her eyes met mine, your father's death will have been for nothing. My chest throbbed. I looked at the sphere, floating patiently, like it awaited command. Another blast echoed, this one tearing metal. We have to go, Leela urged, voice tight. I nodded, but before turning away, I stepped toward the woman. Tell me your name. For a moment, she hesitated. Then, Ilara. It felt right, like she had always been a part of this story, even before I knew it existed. I lowered my voice. Thank you. She gave a single nod. The floor trembled violently. A roar of collapsing structure shook the walls. Leela pulled me toward the corridor. I followed, the sphere lighting our path. As the doors sealed behind us, I heard Ilara's voice echo one last time. Whatever happens, don't let them take it. The door locked with a final hiss. The passage ahead sloped downward, lit by glowing veins running along the walls. Behind us, muffled explosions rumbled like distant thunder. The sphere drifted ahead, guiding us deeper. Where does this lead? Leela asked, breaths fast. I don't know, I murmured, but I think Father didn't build just one exit. The tunnel opened into a cavernous station, rails, platforms, and a sleek pod-like transport resting silently, waiting. As we approached, the sphere floated to its entrance. The door slid open. We exchanged a glance, fear and determination, burning in equal measure, then stepped inside. The door sealed. The pod lurched forward, launching into the darkness at impossible speed. Leela clung to the seat. What now? I stared ahead, heart pounding, the sphere hovering before us like a guiding star. I think, I whispered, this is only the beginning. The tunnel roared around us, a blur of light and shadow, as somewhere behind, the world we once knew collapsed into war.
Of course he had. How much? He avoided my eyes. Daniel, how much? When he stayed silent, I grabbed his chin, forcing him to look up. How much? 80,000. My fingers went numb. $80,000? From who? I don't know their names. They were fast, didn't ask for collateral, said a week to repay. I thought I could win enough to pay them back. I laughed, short, bitter. Gambling. Of course. He began to sob. I didn't know what else to do. You were thriving and You stole everything from me, I snapped. You burned bridges, destroyed trust, and gambled away what wasn't even yours. I know, he screamed, and they're going to kill me. Silence swallowed the room. He collapsed onto the couch, face buried in his hands. I didn't speak. I just watched him unravel. Minutes passed. Then, I thought taking the inheritance would solve everything. I thought you'd always be in my shadow, desperate for help. I didn't think you'd ever grow into someone bigger. The words cut deeper than I expected. I was jealous, he whispered, of your kindness, your clarity. You always knew who you were. I never did, so I took what wasn't mine just to feel worth something. He looked up, eyes swollen. You won. I lost. I know that now. I leaned back, breathing slowly. His confession didn't undo the past, but for the first time I saw him not as a villain, but as a boy who never learned how to stand. Daniel, they won't stop just because you're sorry. He nodded, terrified. I know. I grabbed my phone and dialed Mia. She answered immediately. It's happening. On my way. When I hung up, Daniel stared at me as if I held his fate in my hands. Why are you helping me? He asked. I swallowed. Because you're still my brother. His face contorted, grief, shame, relief colliding all at once. He whispered, I don't deserve it. No, you don't. But I'm not helping you because of what you deserve. A sound outside made us both freeze. Tires crunching on gravel. A car engine cutting off. We moved toward the window, blinds parted just enough to see headlights dim, doors open, silhouettes emerging. 3 men. Tall, calm, purposeful. They walked toward the house like they already owned it. Daniel's voice trembled. They found me. I didn't answer, because the truth was already written on their faces. They didn't come for Daniel alone. I stepped away from the window, pulse steady, mind sharp. My house, my life, everything I'd built, none of it meant anything if I ran again. Not this time. I looked at Daniel. Go upstairs. Stay hidden. Don't make a sound. He dashed up the stairs. Another knock. Firm. Controlled. I exhaled slowly and opened the door. The tallest of the 3 stood front and center, a mountain of a man with a shaved head and eyes as cold as unfinished steel. Behind him, 2 others loomed like shadows cut from the night. None of them bothered with masks. They weren't worried about being seen. That fact alone told me more than any threat could. Evening, the tall one said, his voice disturbingly calm. We're looking for Daniel. I leaned against the doorframe, forcing a casual tone. He's not here. He smiled, not kindly, but knowingly. The kind of smile that meant he'd already decided the ending of this conversation. Let's not pretend, he murmured. We know he came here. I studied them, careful not to show how fast my heart was pounding. Behind my back, my phone was still unlocked. I tapped the screen twice, the signal Mia and I had agreed for emergency. If she was nearby, and I prayed she was, she'd know to move fast. "He's not here," I repeated, firm. The Lear took one step closer. "See, the problem is he owes us a considerable sum, and you're the only person he runs to when he's scared." He tilted his head slightly, as if assessing my bones. "Good brother. Loyal. Admirable. But we don't have time to play house." I stared back, steady. "I don't know about any debt, and it's not my business. If you're looking for him, try the places he usually wastes his time." He chuckled. "I like you," he said. "Brave. Not smart, though." One of the others shifted forward, lifting his jacket just enough for me to glimpse the silver handle of a weapon tucked underneath. I didn't flinch. Show fear and they'd devour you. Show calm and they'd question their certainty. If we know where he is and you're lying, that becomes our problem. And then it becomes your problem. I hesitated for a single beat, not because I feared them, but because I needed to give Mia time. Like I said, I don't know. The leader's smile vanished. "Let's take a look inside." I blocked the doorway. "No warrant, not happening." He raised a brow. "Warrant." His grin returned mocking. "We're not police." Before I could respond, the tallest man leaned in slightly, close enough that I could smell smoke and expensive cologne. I didn't flinch. Show fear and they'd devour you. Show calm and they'd question their certainty. If we go through that door, you won't stop us. But you can choose whether we walk in friendly, a pause, or not. My throat tightened, but my face stayed still. "You step inside and you'll regret it." His eyes gleamed, amused. "I doubt that." And then, headlights washed across the yard, a second car pulled up, dark brew, sleek. Doors open. Mia stepped out first. She wore a long black coat, hair tied back. No fear in her eyes, just a quiet, lethal calm. Two men exited behind her, dressed in plain clothes but unmistakably trained. One carried a case. The loan sharks stiffened. "Well," Mia called out, walking toward us, "seems I missed the party." The leader's expression tightened. "Who are you?" Mia smirked. "The person who will make your life very complicated if you take another step toward that door."
He eyed her carefully. "You working with him?" "I'm working against you," she replied. Her guards spread slightly, hands casually near their jackets, not threatening but unmistakably ready. A stalemate thickened the air. "You think this scares us?" the tall man asked. "We've handled worse." Mia tilted her head. "Maybe, maybe not. But here's the thing." She gestured behind her. "We came prepared to document everything. IDs, faces, license plates, and we're live streaming. If you make a move, every second uploads to a cloud you'll never find." The leader's jaw tensed. She stepped closer, slow and controlled. "Killing him won't get you paid, but walking away? That keeps your business quiet, keeps you free." Silence. For a moment, I thought they'd call her bluff. Then the man's gaze flicked between us, calculating. Finally, he took a half step back. "We'll be in touch," he said. "No, you won't." He stared at her, studying her face, searching for hesitation, and found none. Without another word, he motioned to his men. They turned and walked back to their car. A moment later, engines roared, headlights flared, and the vehicles peeled away into the night. Only when they disappeared did I allow myself to breathe. Mia glanced at me. "We're not done." I nodded and stepped aside to let her in.
Her 2 men followed, one immediately checking windows, doors, and corners with quiet efficiency. I guided her to the living room. "Where is he?" she asked. "Upstairs," I said. "He's terrified." "Good. He should be." Her guards gave the all-clear signal. I led her upstairs. Daniel crouched behind the bed, shaking. When he saw Mia, he looked at me, accusing, frightened. "I thought you wouldn't tell anyone." I snapped. They were seconds from breaking the door down. He curled into himself, pressing his palms over his face. What do I do? Mia studied him, expression unreadable. "There's only one way out of this. You pay." "I don't have money." "You find it," she said coldly. He looked helplessly at me. "Please, help me." I felt something twist inside. He'd stolen my inheritance, gambled, lied, abandoned me, but he was still my brother. And if those men came back, and they wouldn't just take him. They'd raise everything around him to ash. My uncle. He would know. He would come. I leaned back, staring at the ceiling. The path forward was clear. But clarity didn't mean safety. A soft chime from my phone cut through the stillness. A message from Mia. "Safe. For now. Decide quickly." I typed back, "I know." Then I locked the phone and slid the documents into a secure bag. The clock on the wall ticked louder now, every second nudging me toward a decision I couldn't take back. I walked upstairs, noticing the absence of Daniel in every shadow. His fear still clung to the walls. I could almost hear his frantic breathing. I pushed the thought aside. There was no room for sentiment now. My laptop sat on the bedside table. I opened it, connected to my encrypted Wi-Fi, and accessed the trust portal. It required 3 forms of authentication: fingerprint, password, a phrase my father taught me before he died. I whispered it out loud. The system granted entry. On the screen, the trust unfolded like a vault. Funds, assets, properties I never knew existed. My father's legacy was bigger than any of us realized. The primary withdrawal clause blinked at the bottom. Access would notify 2 parties, me and my uncle. I hovered over the option, hands trembling. This wasn't just about saving Daniel. It was about stepping into a game I had avoided since the day my father died. But building my own fortune had shown me I was capable of more than anyone suspected, even me. I clicked. A progress bar appeared. My heart pounded with every percentage. 10%, 22%, 33%. The house creaked, and I froze. Wind outside, nothing more. I kept watching. 51%, 68%, 79%. A memory surfaced, a story my father once told me at the dining table, about wolves, how they never chased the strong. They stalked the hesitant, the ones afraid to run or fight. I wasn't hesitant anymore. 92%. 99%. Complete. A message flashed across the screen. Authorized. Secondary custodian notified. I closed the laptop slowly, feeling the last traces of quiet slip away. Now there was no going back. I packed the documents, grabbed a small travel bag, and switched off every light as I moved through the house. My uncle would come, maybe tomorrow, maybe tonight. I intended to be gone before then. As I locked the front door, headlights washed the street again. I stiffened, pulse surging, but these weren't the predatory beams from before. A familiar silhouette stepped out. Mia. Her hair was wind-tangled, her coat dusted with city grit. She approached slowly, gaze searching mine. "You did it," she said. I nodded. "Then we move fast. Your uncle will send people. He won't wait." "Where is Daniel?" "A safe house outside the city. He's shaken, but alive." I swallowed and followed her to the car. Before climbing in, I looked back at the house. Years of memories wrapped in a silent, stoic shell. I thought I'd built something untouched by the past, but roots always remember the soil they came from. Inside the car, the city lights streaked past the windows. Mia drove hard, one hand steady on the wheel, the other tapping out coded messages on her phone. "Once the funds clear," she said, "we'll pay his debt. But you need to understand something." I waited. "This won't end with money. Those men work under someone bigger, someone who doesn't forgive lost time or public embarrassment." She glanced at me. "You embarrassed them tonight." I stared ahead. "They came to my door. I didn't invite them." "Doesn't matter," she said. "You stood in their way. People like that respond only to dominance. If they sense weakness, they'll return stronger." "Then I won't be weak." She almost smiled. "Good, because there's more." She reached into her coat and pulled out a small envelope. My name was written across it, in handwriting I recognized instantly. My father's. My breath caught. "I found it," she said, "in Daniel's things. He never opened it." I took the envelope, palms suddenly cold. The paper was thin, delicate with age. I peeled it open and unfolded the letter inside. "Son, if you're reading this, the world has finally forced your hand. I hoped it wouldn't, but I always knew it might. There are things you do not know about me, about our family, about the people I once trusted. Your uncle is not who he seems. The trust is not just money. It is a map. Follow it carefully. Trust only those who have chosen you with no reward. The next step begins where the river bends. Your father." My hands trembled. A map, a warning, a destination, and my uncle, already on his way. Mia watched me silently. "What does it say?" I folded the letter, heartbeat sharp. "It says this is only the beginning." Mia's eyes hardened. "Then we prepare." The city thinned as we left its safety, roads turning darker, quieter. No streetlights, only the rhythm of tires on asphalt. Somewhere out there, Daniel waited. Somewhere farther, my uncle moved toward me. And somewhere unseen, the river bent. I sank deeper into the seat, clutching the letter. My father was leading me somewhere, and for the first time in years, I intended to follow. The road narrowed as we left the city limits, trees leaning inward like they were listening. Fog pooled low along the asphalt, drifting beneath the headlights. I kept rereading the letter, tracing my father's handwriting, searching for hidden meaning. "The river bends," I murmured. "What does that even mean?" Mia didn't look away from the road. "There's only one river worth mentioning near here. The Arden." I nodded slowly. "That river curves right before the old mill." "Exactly," she said. "I already have someone headed there to scout." Her preparedness no longer surprised me. If anything, I wondered how long she'd known more than she admitted. I tucked the letter back into its envelope. The weight of it felt heavier now, like it carried not just words, but a fate set in motion long before I understood any of it. "How long have you been watching my uncle?" I asked quietly. Mia exhaled, a breath that carried the truth with it. "Since your father hired me." I turned to her sharply. "Your father hired you?" "Yes," she said, "years before he died. He wanted eyes on certain people, your uncle, his business associates, a few others. He knew who he could trust. You weren't ready then. He needed someone who was." I didn't know whether to feel betrayed or grateful.
Why didn't he tell me? He didn't want you living in fear. He hoped it would never become your problem. I swallowed hard. But now it is. She nodded. The car turned down a dirt road, gravel popping beneath the tires. Ahead, a dim light flickered from a small cabin tucked behind a cluster of tall pines, a safe house. Mia pulled to a stop and cut the engine. The silence afterwards felt suffocating. We stepped out. The air smelled like cedar and rain. One of her men opened the door for us. Inside, the cabin was modest. Bare wooden floors, a worn sofa, a fireplace burning low. Daniel sat on the edge of the couch, wrapped in a blanket like a child. When he saw me, he sprang to his feet.
You came, he breathed, relief spilling from him. I didn't respond. He approached, but Mia stepped between us. He stopped short, wounded by the distance. I found something, I said, lifting the envelope. From Dad. Daniel blinked in confusion. Where? In your things. He frowned. I've never seen that before. I know. He looked ashamed, eyes falling. I never cared to look closely. A silence hung. For once, I didn't rush to ease it. We need to talk, I said. Daniel nodded, slowly, like he already feared the answer. I sat across from him near the fireplace. Flames flickered against the walls, painting strange shapes. I accessed the trust, I said. We have enough to clear your debt. His head dropped, relief sharp enough to be mistaken for prayer. Thank you, he whispered. I didn't do it for you, I said softly. His eyes lifted, confused. I did it because Dad left more than money. He left instructions, so this is bigger than your mess. He swallowed. What instructions? I pulled out the letter. He wants me to follow a map, to the river bend. Recognition flashed across Daniel's face, too quickly. You know something. He hesitated. Dad took me there once, before he died. It was the only time he ever asked me to go somewhere alone with him. Why didn't you say anything? His voice cracked. Because I thought he chose me. And when he left everything to you, I felt like I'd been replaced. I hated him for that. The honesty stung, sharper than any lie. What happened there? Daniel closed his eyes, recalling. He buried something, a metal box, small. He told me never to open it, just to remember where it was. Mia leaned forward. Did he say why? No, just that if the family ever turned on itself, the truth would be there. The family ever turned on itself. My uncle. The trust. The men who came to my house. Everything pointed to that riverbend. We're going, I said. Daniel looked terrified. Now? Yes. Mia nodded at her team. They moved instantly, packing supplies, checking weapons. Daniel watched them uneasily. Is this really necessary? You saw what came to our door. We're past necessary. He fell silent. We left the cabin in 2 cars, Mia driving the lead, her 2 men in the second. Daniel sat beside me, jittery, eyes darting to every shadow. Halfway down the old logging road, the forest swallowed the moonlight. Tall trees rose like black pillars, fog coiled between them. The world felt ancient, untouched, like it had been waiting. The sound of running water grew louder, the river. Finally, Mia slowed, turning off the road onto a clearing. The river glimmered beyond, curving sharply around a bank lined with stones. The riverbend. We stepped out. The ground was damp, the air sharp with cold. Daniel hesitated at the tree line. This is it, he whispered. Where? I asked. He pointed. Behind that fallen oak. We moved together. The grass was overgrown. Moss slicked the stones. Beneath the fallen trunk, Daniel knelt and brushed aside leaves. His hands trembled. Metal clicked. A small box emerged, rusted, heavy, edges dented by time. My chest tightened. He held it out to me. "This is for you," he said. My fingers closed around the chilled metal. I felt something inside shift, weighty, deliberate. I lifted the lid. Inside, a single key, a folded piece of cloth, and a photograph. I picked it up. My father stood beside another man, tall, severe, eyes like mine. Not my uncle. On the back, in my father's script, "He is the true danger." My pulse hammered. Mia leaned close. "Who is this?" Daniel looked over my shoulder and blanched. "That's him," he whispered. "The man who's been looking for me." My stomach dropped. Not my uncle. Someone worse. A low rumble cut through the trees. Engines. Lights flared through the branches. A caravan of dark SUVs crawling towards us like predators smelling blood. Mia snapped to action. "Move! Into position!" Her men drew weapons, spreading out. Daniel froze, panic strangling him. The vehicle stopped. Doors opened. From the center SUV, a figure emerged. Tall, severe, eyes cold as winter. The man from the photo. He looked straight at me. Not at Daniel, not at Mia. Me. As if he'd waited years for this exact moment, he stepped forward, voice carrying across the clearing. Quiet, but powerful. "I've been expecting you."
My breath hitched, because the way he said it, it sounded like he knew me, like he'd always known me. And even from a distance, I could see he was smiling. He stared at the phone in his trembling hand, the silent screen reflecting his fear back at him. Sweat gathered at the nape of his neck as he replayed the muffled voice from moments ago. Calm, confident, promising to finish what was started. He swallowed hard. Every instinct screamed to run, but there was nowhere left to run. The corridor stretched ahead, long, dimly lit, humming faintly with the electricity of old, struggling bulbs. He kept moving, careful, each footstep controlled. The air felt colder here, heavier, like the building itself remembered what happened within its walls. A distant clatter made him freeze. Metal against concrete? Someone, or something, was here. He listened. Nothing followed. He forced his feet forward until he reached a rusted door half open. Inside, a dusty scent of forgotten memories drifted out. He nudged it wider, revealing a narrow room packed with broken shelves and collapsed cabinets. Papers littered the floor, crumpled files smeared with dirt and faint reddish stains. He crouched, picking up a torn page. The text was barely legible. His eyes narrowed on a name. Case number 047. Dahlia. His breath caught. Dahlia, the same name that showed up in the text messages. The same name uttered by the woman who begged for help days ago. He checked the bottom corner. Another note, written in shaky ink. She saw me. She must be silent. His stomach twisted. Suddenly, footsteps echoed again, closer this time. He jerked upright, heart slamming against his ribs. He stepped backward, accidentally kicking debris. The subtle crunch sounded thunderous in the suffocating quiet. The footsteps paused. Silence felt like a trap. He held his breath. After a moment, the steps resumed, moving away, fading into distance. He exhaled shakily, pocketing the torn sheet, and slipped back into the corridor. Each step felt more urgent now. He needed to get out, to tell someone, anyone, what he found. Then his phone buzzed. He nearly dropped it. Another message. Unknown. You're close. Stop digging. He typed back with shaking fingers. Him. Who are you? What do you want? The typing bubble appeared almost instantly. Disappeared. Appeared again. Then, unknown. You already know. Leave. Now. He cursed under his breath. He refused. Not this time. He pushed deeper into the building, past peeling wallpaper and shattered glass cases that once displayed something. Maybe trophies, maybe evidence. He didn't know. At the end of the corridor was a stairwell leading down. A cold current rose from below, damp and thick with mold. He hesitated. If Dahlia's file was here, maybe the truth was too. He stepped onto the first step, feeling it groan under his weight. The darkness deepened with each step until only his phone light lit the path. At the bottom, a metallic door waited, impossibly heavy, its surface marked with deep scratches, as though someone had tried desperately to escape. Or claw their way in. He pushed it. It opened too easily. A faint flickering bulb hung overhead, casting fractured light across rows of shelves. The coldness here was biting, almost unnatural. He scanned until he found a cabinet marked 047. His pulse pounded as he yanked it open. Inside were photographs. Grainy, poorly taken, but disturbing. A girl, Dahlia, young, with wide, fearful eyes, standing near what looked like this same building. In some photos, she wasn't alone. Someone loomed beside her, face always blurred or hidden in shadow. He lifted another photograph. Dahlia lying on the floor, her limbs twisted, unnaturally, eyes open, empty. He felt sick, stumbling backward, gripping the cabinet for support. Then another photograph slipped out. This one newer, printed on crisp paper. It wasn't the girl. It was him, standing outside his home, taken recently. His blood ran ice cold. A soft rustle came from behind. His phone light jerked toward the noise. Nothing. He straightened, pulse roaring in his ears. Then, a shadow passed between the shelves. He'd seen it. Someone was here. He backed away slowly, careful not to make a sound. His hand brushed against a metal rod on the ground. He grabbed it tightly. The shadow moved again, fast, darting behind another row. He edged toward the exit, every nerve screaming. Another message buzzed on his phone. He almost didn't check, but curiosity won. Unknown. Why didn't you listen? Before he could reply, a figure stepped onto the aisle, tall, wrapped in a dark coat, face obscured beneath a hood. They stood motionless, watching. He tightened his grip on the rod. The figure raised one hand, silent, gloved, and pointed at him. His throat dried. He stepped back. The figure began walking toward him. Slow, deliberate steps, echoing against concrete, each one louder than the last. He turned and ran. The basement seemed endless now, shelves blurring, floor uneven, shadows writhing at the edges of sight. His lungs burned as he reached the stairs, taking them two at a time, barely staying upright. Behind him, footsteps thundered. He burst into the corridor, sprinting toward the entrance. The building seemed darker than before, lights flickering violently, casting twisted shapes across the walls. He reached the main door, locked. No! He shook it, yanking hard. But it wouldn't budge. The footsteps grew louder. Closer.
He spun, pressing his back against the door, metal rod raised uselessly. His heart hammered, sweat dripping down his face. The corridor ahead was empty, silent. The footsteps stopped. He held his breath. Seconds passed. Then his phone buzzed again. He looked. Unknown. You can't leave. His vision blurred with panic. He stumbled backward, hitting the door harder. Still locked. He turned, looking for another exit, a window, anything. Nothing. He forced himself to move, pushing left into another hallway he hadn't seen before. This one was narrower, walls stained with dark smears. The air felt wrong, as if he'd stepped somewhere he shouldn't. He moved quickly, checking each door, locked, jammed, blocked. At the far end, one door was slightly open, light spilling beneath it. He reached for the handle, heartbeat frantic, and pushed. Inside, a single table sat in the center. On it, a phone. Ringing. His own phone buzzed again. Both phones rang in perfect unison. He stepped closer, barely breathing. The ringing stopped. The phone on the table lit up. Answer. His hands shook. He reached and picked it up. Static hissed. Then, a whisper. You shouldn't have come here. Now. The voice paused, breathing slow and cold. You'll learn the truth. The line went silent, but he didn't move. Couldn't move. The lights flickered. Footsteps returned. Closer. Closer. He backed away, pulse spiking, gripping the device like a lifeline as the door behind him creaked, opening, inch by inch. Someone was coming in. The hinges moaned as the door pushed wider, slow and deliberate, like a beast savoring the reveal. He staggered backward, breath shallow, eyes locked on the widening crack. A pale hand slipped through first, long fingers, unmoving, followed by the silhouette of a figure whose presence drowned the air itself. The bulb overhead flickered, struggling, then surrendered to the dark. His phone screen was the only light now, cold, trembling in his palm. The figure stepped inside, not rushed, not hesitant, but certain. He could hear its breathing, measured, deep, like someone patiently waiting for his fear to ripen. He raised the metal rod, but his arm trembled so hard it rattled in his grip. His phone buzzed, another message. He forced his gaze down. Unknown. Don't fight. Watch. The figure emitted a low sound, half laugh, half growl. It stretched an arm and flipped a switch on the wall. A light snapped on, bright, sterile. And the room changed. Where bare walls once stood, now they were photographs, plastered from floor to ceiling. Every moment of his life captured. Birthdays, school, work, friendships. His mother smiling at him on a porch. Even the day he arrived at this building. Someone had been here before him, waiting. His knees buckled. Something cold touched his shoulder. The figure stood behind him now, impossibly fast, towering, its form shapeless beneath the dark coat. He could hear its breathing at his ear, icy and damp. A whisper seeped into him. Truth is earned, in pieces. Suddenly, the lights went out again. Silence swallowed the room. Then, a deafening click. A projector burst to life on the far wall, sputtering, then sharpening into a moving image. It was him, standing in a hospital hallway shivering, hands blood-stained. Doctors rushed past him. Nurses screamed. A stretcher with a white sheet rolled by. Fingers slipped from under the sheet, small, delicate. He gasped. He remembered none of this. But the next image showed a girl,
Dahlia, alive, smiling, standing beside him, whispering something into his ear. He watched his own face soften, then harden as if a storm rolled through his eyes. The footage distorted, static, then resumed. He stood in a dark room, holding Dahlia's hand. She looked scared. He whispered something to her. She shook her head. He reached for her. The scene cut to black. He stumbled backward. No, that's not real. But the projector hummed again. Now it showed a basement. This basement. Dahlia on the floor, still. His silhouette over her. The metal rod in his hand. His scream choked in his throat. He dropped the rod, stumbling into the table. The projector went silent. Darkness swallowed them again. The whisper returned. You came here to remember. He shook uncontrollably, vision swimming, memories flooded, broken, violent, dripping in and out like water through cracked stone. He remembered Dahlia's voice, her crying.
Him shouting, the room spinning. Then, nothing. He collapsed to his knees, clutching his head. No, it wasn't me. It wasn't. I didn't. A gentle hand cupped his chin. The figure knelt before him, lifting its hood. Dahlia. Not dead. Not alive. Something in between. Pale, eyes hollow, yet burning with impossible life. Her voice was faint, carried on a wind that hadn't entered the room. You locked me here. You made me disappear. He stared, tears streaking his cheeks. I didn't mean to. I didn't. She tilted her head. You wanted silence. Images pulsed behind his eyelids, a secret he promised to bury, a truth he refused to hold. Her pleas, his fear, his rage. The room vibrated, walls twisting like fabric, trapped air shaking with weight. Dahlia rose, floating, her voice echoing. You ran from the truth, but it followed. The phones in the room began to ring, all of them, filling the space with shrill chaos. He screamed, covering his ears, curling in agony. The ringing stopped instantly. Silence again. She hovered inches above the floor, her face inches from his. You returned. So now you finish it. He stared at her, broken. His voice barely formed. What do you want from me? Her expression softened, almost sorrowful. I want you to remember, and I want you to pay. The walls rippled again, and he felt the floor sink beneath him. The room stretched, distorting, as if reality itself were melting. He grabbed at the ground, cold, slippery, pulling himself upward. But hands, many hands, rose from the darkness under him, clawing his arms, shoulders, dragging him down. Faces formed in the shadows, faces of others, empty-eyed, mouths open in silent screams. He was drowning in them. Dahlia watched. Her eyes gleamed. You thought I was the only one. More faces emerged, more victims, more silenced names. His own voice echoed around him, looping,
I didn't mean to. I didn't mean to. I didn't mean to. Dahlia drifted closer, pressing her cold palm to his forehead. His body spasmed as memories ripped through him, each one sharper, merciless, peeling back every lie he told himself. He saw himself, night after night, coming to this place. He saw the others, all the others. He saw the truth. He had been here long before he thought. This wasn't the first time. This was the last. The floor swallowed him to his chest. He clawed desperately at the edges, eyes wild. Please, Dahlia, please! She leaned in. Her whisper was almost kind. Now you understand. The darkness rose, up his neck, over his mouth. Her final words drifted through the cold. No one leaves. And with a last desperate gasp, he slipped beneath the black, into silence. The room went still. The phones fell quiet. The bulb flickered once, twice, and died. Somewhere deeper in the building, another phone began to ring. Someone else was coming. The building waited.